better leave it to the perfection.
Let's be blah blah blah.
Start with a bitch. Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1. Hello, hoes on Web 2. Now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems. Topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up. Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one.
GM. I really wanted to play Not Like Us this morning, but I don't want to get my account suspended. But if you missed it, Kendrick's crushed his concert last night. If anyone can find the full concert link, please drop in the chat for me. I couldn't find it. It was on Amazon. It should be still available, but I've searched all morning, can't find it. We'll get started here in about 60 seconds. Give us a GM in the chat down below. Some love on the space up above. Those likes, reposts, and bookmarks are greatly appreciated. And we'll get rolling here in about 60 seconds.
And I keep it 101 because I'm feeling kind of spotty. You sipping on some rock and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck started is off with a bit. Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1. Hello, hoes on Web 2. I was living the dream. Now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems. Topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up. NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. The field's not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out the off with a bit. Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1. Hello, hoes on Web 2. I was living the dream. Now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems. Topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up. Freaking I'm more to choose one. But they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, mighty, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
This episode is brought to you by DGen Network, the only community-based Web3 media network, bringing you the very best content in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. Please visit dgen.network and check out our other great shows. That's DGen, DGEN.network.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. I'm Cap, joined by my co-host Steve. Welcome to Coffee with Captain. Give us some love on the space up above, all the way to the right. Those likes, reposts, bookmarks are greatly appreciated. And you can't see your likes anyways, at least for another week or so. I'm like, it will be complete pandemonium. I'm near certain that Elon is going to take back and make likes visible again, Steve. I have been liking posts that I normally wouldn't like due to this new veil of secrecy. The posts I'm liking, though, this may come as a surprise. Prior to this, I refused to like my own tweets. Now I smash that like button every time I send out a post. So yeah, I've been pumping my own bags here, Steve. GM, sir, I've got nothing for cold open this morning. So we can talk Kendrick if you want, but other than that, I'll let you take us wherever you want. We won't be talking about any sort of financial advice, just entertainment purposes only. Crypto is risky, NFTs are risky. It all probably goes to zero at some point, but we're gonna have fun along the way, make some friends, and enjoy our coffee. GM, sir.
GM. A couple things I would say. Number one, give us a like, a retweet, and a comment on the room. We actually have 2 very nice sort of cutting edge hardware wallets that we're going to be giving away today. We're going to have our friends from Arculus on, who we met down in Consensus. They sent me 2. I can't even remember if I actually told you this, Cap. They sent me 2 extras to give away to our listeners. So we're going to pick someone, but you need to like the room, you need to retweet the room, and you need to comment something down below. We're going to pick subjectively, so the better your comment, the better it gets. But even a GM gets you in the mix, and if we see something creative, we might pick someone. But we got 2 to give away. So like, retweet, comment, hit us with a GM at the very least. Comment on what we're talking about during the show, and we'll try to find someone in there. We want to get a good crowd for them because this is a cool one. I have been playing around with it a little bit, and Cap, I'm not sure if you had the chance to bust yours open yet. If not, totally cool, but this is the slickest hardware wallet I've used. So we'll talk about it more later, but in the meantime, like, retweet, comment down below. Again, it's going to be Arculus. We could pin some stuff up top as we get going. For me, I am, just a couple things on my mind as we get into the cold open, as we get the room warmed up. Definitely excited about, I got that MJ accepted, all joke. I know we do the joking MJ LeBron thing. Excited about getting that accepted with basketball cards coming over to the colony. I'm pretty heavy on the Pokemon and One Piece cards with a couple theses going there. This can get dangerous for me because this is like NBA Top Shot, but I actually can own the physical asset pegged to it. I know you've made that comparison before, but I definitely have started going a little wild on the colony, including I've got myself one of the boxes from the drop yesterday. Threw in an offer, I think, for $61. It was a $50 drop. I like myself a good old gamble, so I have managed to do that. So I will be cracking at 10 o'clock a box to see if I can get another basketball card, potentially plus EV. Excited for that. And if I don't, that's cool too. We played the gamble. So collecting RWAs. Filmed the colony video yesterday. I'll pin to the top. So any love to that is great. So that's top of mind. And then the other thing, Cap, I'm curious about. This ties in Web3, but it's kind of cold open-y. Have you gotten your shipping notifications for your artifact shoes yet? Are your artifact shoes on the way, and are you getting ready to be a flipper?
I'm definitely going to be a flipper. They're on the way. I feel very guilty right now. I have a private mailing box. It's not a post office box, but a UPS store type private mailing box. And I've gotten 2 notifications this week. One is the hardware wallet you sent me. Thank you very much. The other, I think, might be my sneakers. I intended to go yesterday. I got in the weeds and put out a couple fires and did not make it. So they may be close to being in my possession. I may be flipping them today. I ordered 5 pairs. However, I only got notification that 3 had shipped. So hoping I'm not getting rugged on the other 2 and just their split shipments. But all 3 models were in this first one. So we'll see. But yeah, I was supposed to get 2 of the pairs, two pairs of 2 of the pairs. Is that, how am I supposed to say that? 2 sets?
2 pairs.
And yeah, so they may be here, maybe not. Either that or someone sent me something else as a secret. I don't think I was expecting anything else this week. So possibly here, I will find out after the show today.
Yeah, no. So that's exciting for me. I am not intending to sell mine. I might sell. Go ahead, Cap.
I'm giving myself more credit than I deserve. I wasn't lazy yesterday. I didn't have a car. This is my daughter is she's just disappeared this summer. She's living her dream life and hanging out at the beach and her friends and so I've been carless. I confessed yesterday on Welcome Wednesday Space that 2 days in a row, Steve, my dinner was an entire large pizza. I didn't eat the whole thing, but I had no reason. 2 days, back-to-back days in a row, I just ordered a large pizza for myself. And now the pizza I ordered on Tuesday, it has been completed. The one I ordered last night, I think it's maybe half, maybe 5/8 I ate last night. The rest will be my lunch today. That's the mode I'm in. So you can laugh. You can say, what in the world am I doing? I'm eating Kodiak pancakes with blueberries and whipped cream for lunch. I've had that 2 days, 3 days, 4 days in a row, maybe. I'm on my cheese pizza kick for dinner. And this may sound very weird, but when I start eating the same thing over and over and over again, that's me getting locked in. So I'm at the point where nothing matters in my life except for what I'm building. My kid is on her own. She's doing fine. The other one's at college. They don't need me right now. So I'm just dialed in and eating like an 18-year-old bachelor, Steve.
I like that. You're dialed in. I know you mentioned another potential sponsor that you're talking to yesterday or recently that you're going to follow up with, a old friend who we're hoping to get back in. We have another one that we're working on locking in. So Cap is in full lock-in mode. We're excited about that.
Pizza. It might be Jets Pizza at this pace. Jets Pizza. I'm a big fan of cracker crust pizza. It's not New York pizza, but it's really super thin crust. Closest thing in Ohio, like Donato's is like a go-to if I'm in Ohio. We had great like local pizza shops in Southern Indiana. There's one called Tironi's. They have like 3 or 4 breweries with pizza. Really good. Florida pizza sucks. It is awful. I kid you not. You ask in like the local Facebook groups for the area, you're like, what's the best thin crust pizza? And like Domino's. I'm like, get the out of here. Domino's pizza is the best you've got. So despite me fighting chain pizza shops, Jets is a sleeper. If you've never tried Jets pizza and you like thin crust pizza, you don't have any other good options, like good local options. Jets is a surprising underdog for chain pizza that's good if you like the thin crust variety.
That's awesome.
I thought I had no open news and we could talk pizza and pancakes or waffles all morning.
Well, and it's funny because this is also, I was saying this in the war room, but I'll throw it out there. This is what it's all about when you're not a drinker. You're not a drinker. I am a drinker. I'm not like a heavy drinker by any means, although I could be better. I actually have confession about falling off the wagon. I had been really good. I went to Consensus. I mentioned on the show, I ran more miles on the hotel treadmill than I did beers drank. I made sure I took care of myself. And when I got back from Consensus, I got sick and it completely threw me off the wagon because it's one of those sicknesses, whatever I had, it was going around because there is like stuff missing in Target when you're going through the aisles and you see you can't find like the cold and flu medicine. And I fell off the wagon and haven't been eating the best lately. Haven't been getting myself up to work out lately. I'm going to change that in the next week, though. Absolutely, especially as I'm saying it out loud. And one of the great parts about this show is when I say it out loud, I can get the accountability back. But I sort of fell off the wagon because I wasn't feeling well. And then when I felt better, I'm like, oh, I'll have a couple drinks. And I didn't eat super well. But I was running and I was falling back in love with running. But my lungs still haven't recovered from this sickness. I don't know what it is, but it's hanging on in like I'm still have this like weird cough that happens from time to time.
Did you take a COVID test?
Yeah, it was negative. So I didn't get COVID as far as I, know, unless it was wrong, right? Like one of the rapid ones. But so I don't know if it's just something, but it's also like this happens to me, like probably, and we talked about this on the show. This happens to me probably twice a year, maybe, where like I get a sickness that I knew it. I said it to Mrs. NFT Bark. Like I know when it's different. Like when I get a flu, it's different. I'm like, oh, this is bad. But I said it to Mrs. NFT Bark. I was like, this is one of those ones where I'm going to have a lot of head pressure. I'm going to have some sinus pressure. And then the shit is going to hang on for like a month. And I'm never going to feel good, which throws me off because I was getting the momentum, leaving Consensus, falling back in love with running, was going to run every day and kind of keep going. And then I was sick. And then I kind of was lifting with my son a little bit, but then he wasn't wanting to do it. So I was like, I'll be lazy about it. But anyway, long story short, with you with the pizza, what people sometimes like, what's really messed up about our American brains or our brains in general, the way the world has a relationship with alcohol, is that, you mentioned like, oh, I ordered a large pizza for myself. And people are probably like, oh, disgusting.
The full story, Steve. Not only did I order a large pizza for myself, I redeemed one. I'm a loyalty app junkie. So I redeemed I had points. So I got a large pizza and then the dessert thing, like a little thing of brownies, like brownie chocolate chip cookies. It was it's intended to share with like 8 people. And I also ate half of that. So while I dropped my proof of gym in the thing, and like I got to get back on the health thing because I'm at an age where I just can't eat whatever I want. But I did go through a period where I ate whatever the F I wanted, and I just worked out every day to counterbalance that.
Oh, I
can't do that. Definitely went full gross, full large pizza, full large thing of brownies. Ate half of those myself. It might be gone. There's a chance I woke up in the middle of the night and down the last 2 or 3 of them.
No, there's a point in my life when I was like 31 and I like deadlifted like 400 pounds while I think I was still drunk at the gym. Not safe. Don't recommend. Do not try at home. It was when I was like when I was like squatting like 300 pounds and all this stuff, doing muscle ups. I was in really good shape. And I was not a healthy individual in other aspects of my life, but I was in my mid 30s. I was working out every day. I was doing CrossFit at, 6 a.m. till 7, a.m. every day. And then I'd be going for like a 5-mile run in the afternoon. It was a simpler time. But the funny part about like this switch that I was going to say is that like you talk about ordering a full ass large pizza for yourself and people might say, ew. But last night, I had a couple double whiskeys. I hung out like with my family. My wife brought me home a little bit of Italian food because she met up with a friend at a local Italian joint. It's like what I did last night was equally or more calorically dense than what you did because those empty calories of the alcohol are so big. So like you almost can, like you basically had the equivalent of a drinking bender with your large pizza. And, not even a bender, just like a nice little night where you have some cocktails. But because you're not a drinker, it's almost like you can fill the gap. Now, you still want to be careful. You still need to be careful about what you do as you get older, but like you can get away with it a little bit more. And so anyway,
it's not just booze. I don't drink any calories. So I drink coffee, black coffee, drink tea, and I drink sparkling water. I won't consume any liquid calories. And that is like, it's going to be hard for some people if you drink a lot of soda and stuff. But even if you want to have your, like some people drink, some people don't, you can still drink booze, but I would challenge you, like cut as many liquid calories from your diet as much as possible. I think it's the easiest hack to lose weight.
Oh, absolutely. It's a thing where it's like, if you have them in, it's a cheat code. I'm like, I almost never drink soda. The thing with me is like, don't do fast food. And, generally speaking, very rarely do fast food. I don't generally drink soda except for in certain circumstances. Like when we were in Texas and we were getting barbecue, I was grabbing a big old bottle of Mexican Coke, right? That was good. But it's like a rare occasion. And I need to be better about that.
Well, that's like when in Rome. Like if you're going to a Texas barbecue spot, like if you're not going to drink the Mexican Coke there, when are you going to have it?
Exactly. Because I'm not the person who just gets one at every meal. But that's, I don't know, like good for you, like living your best life. I think to your point, like let's both commit right now. So this weekend we have my son's birthday party we're doing and we're having a whole bunch of people over. So I know Saturday is going to be an absolute, we have the pool in the backyard. So we've been doing the other thing about it that's throwing me off. Last night was a work / I was going to go work out night because my kids, we're the family with the pool. And so we are the friends with the pool. So that means this week, Monday and Wednesday, it was 90 degrees. Heater currently broken, working on getting that fixed. Took a while to diagnose it. Doesn't matter because it was 90 degrees. So what do? We call and text their kids' friends. My son and daughter are 2 years apart, and they actually have multiple friends who have kids in the same grade who they're friends with. My daughter's friends with the older sibling, my son's friends with the younger sibling, and they're all kind of friends, which is an awesome situation. So, we had them over Monday. That was great. A little bit of a wash, though, because their friends' parents are cool, so we hung with them. Yesterday, similar thing, but Mrs. NFT Bark was getting ready to watch them, and I should have cold opened with this to start. This is what derailed my day yesterday, but that's okay. It derails for good stuff. Is that I get a phone call from Mrs. NFT Bark, who's outside, because we never let the kids go in the pool unsupervised, even though they're all great swimmers and all this good stuff. And so, because the oldest kids are 12 and, the rest of them are 10. And, my wife calls me and she goes, I forgot, I'm meeting my friend out tonight and totally forgot about it. I'm supposed to be there in 10 minutes. I'm like, oh shit. So I get dressed, go downstairs, sit out there with the kids, try to get some work done. But like, the exercise thing suddenly is no longer happening because I'm supervising kids in the pool. And like, it was great because I hung with the kids and that was fun. The parents came by a little bit, but it was like throws off your day. So we're making a commitment, me and Cap, after Saturday, which I know is going to be ugly for me. Starting Sunday, I will be fully back in the swing of things. I'm going to try to get on the treadmill, even if I'm tired, even if my lungs don't feel good, starting Sunday. And then go through next week. And Cap, you're going to do the same. So we're getting back on track because in a couple weeks, I'm going to be on a cruise or in probably like 3.5 weeks, I'm going to be on a cruise. So we'll actually have to work that out from a co-hosting standpoint. And because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get live. But like,
you going Caribbean or where are you going? I didn't even ask.
Alaskan cruise. Alaskan, yeah. So it's going to be exciting. So we're doing an Alaskan cruise. When we do that, though, I plan to go to that gym pretty much every day on the cruise ship. They have nice gyms on cruise ships. Going to be a nice day. No excuse not to. I'm on the boat all day.
Elite saunas typically on cruises, Steve.
Elite. And not, so they have like nice things on there. So my goal is to do what I did in Consensus, which is run more miles than I drink, maybe get some lifts in, go to the gym, work on some stuff. So I need to get myself back in the routine in the next 3 weeks. So that when I go there, it's like when I used to go on vacation in my, late 20s, early 30s, I might find a CrossFit box to drop into if I was down by Disney. Or maybe, because they're used to drop-ins down there. Or maybe I would go to the hotel gym every day or just go for a run around the property. It was like, doing any other thing in your routine, like waking up, getting dressed, take a shower. It was like, wake up, go for a run, wake up, So got to get myself back there so that when I go on this cruise for a week, I'm sitting there going to, because it's a long cruise. It's a, Alaskan cruises are long. You're out there for what you're going to do. So anyway, long story short, we're going to get that done. But we've gone over on the cold open on the shenanigans. Worked in a little bit of Artifact though, which is NFT relevant. Going to go to Joey Vowels, and then we will get into, we have Arculus, like I said, coming up. By the way, before we go to Joey, reminder, if you missed it earlier, give us a like, a retweet, and a comment. We're asking for the bookmark. We can't check the bookmark, full transparency, but do us a favor and bookmark. Like, retweet, comment. And in the comments, we're going to be giving away 2 of these hardware wallets. And when you hear about these hardware wallets, they are unlike any hardware wallet I have ever used. I used it this morning. I was sending Sol back and forth, ETH back and forth. You can do all sorts of things. It's really cool. We'll explain what it is when we get them on the interview. If you don't have a hardware wallet, let us know that in the chat. Maybe we'll pick someone who doesn't own one already. Maybe we'll pick someone who has a really good question. Haven't decided how we're doing it subjectively, but they were nice enough to send us, me and Cap, each one, and then 2 for our listeners. So like, retweet, comment on the room. Joey Vowels, get in here. Congrats on another quick sellout yesterday, GM.
GM, I am offended by Cap's comment regarding pizza. I don't associate with the West Coast of Florida and their lack of good pizza. Here on the East Coast, we have a lot of really good pizza spots. I can't, you live in like retirement capital USA over there, Cap. So what do you expect when it comes to pizza? If you want,
I think I might open a pizza franchise. In all seriousness, I've never seen a pizza market be so underserved as is the Gulf Coast of Florida. It's actually awful.
I didn't know if Joey had a response to that.
Oh, sorry. I thought I unmuted. I was literally just talking to the air there. I'm a huge pizza guy, so I love following Portnoy and his pizza reviews. And, he has a place down here in South Florida, and he drove to the West Coast. He did like a road trip to the West Coast to try out a whole bunch of pizza places. So I don't know if you follow him or not on Instagram, Cap, but he did review a bunch of them. And I want to say there was like one that he might have given a good score to. So you might want to look and see which one that is. But
here's the thing: the pizza for me is convenient. Like I'm not driving to Tampa. I'm not driving 45 minutes to pick up a pizza. A good pizza shop, a good pizza in a market, in my opinion, they should have pizza, like multiple shops throughout the boroughs to where in suburbs, wherever you're living, all the different neighborhoods. Like no one's done that down here. It is actually mind blowing to me. Everywhere I've lived in my life, there's always been like a local pizza chain like dominated the local market with really good pizza. And it's just, there's none here.
Yeah, it's not good over there. He said it himself, but if you come to the East Coast, there's a lot of really good pizza places. New York style, Detroit style, thin crust.
What's the biggest variable? In bagels, it's the water. What's the biggest variable in pizza? Why can't they make a good pizza over here?
The ovens. It's the ovens. So like if you don't spend the money so we've got some people that have actually brought their ovens down from New York because they're like 100-year-old ovens, right? But like it's definitely the way the ovens are made. If you're just using conveyor belts, it obviously you're not going to get it. Bakers, if you don't have like a coal fire or a wood fire, right? You got to use Baker's Pride, and you got to know how to work the oven if you're using Baker's Pride. The problem is that most people down here, in my opinion, to your point, they just want pizza. They're not like pizza snobby, right? Like when you're in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Chicago, it's pizza snobby. So if you're not like, you got to be good. It's like a competition every single day because the guy 2 doors down is trying to kick your ass when it comes to pizza. And down here, it's just not like that. Like there's a place I'm lucky, they're family, but they're not family. Like we shared the same house together growing up on the same block in Brooklyn. So we consider them family, but we're not blood related. They opened up a pizza joint like 5 minutes from my house, and it is legit like New York, top-notch New York style pizza because that's where they're from. That's what they grew up with. And then Miami has a couple good places too. Miami Slice is, I think, like the number 1 spot down there. But you're right. It's just, it's not the culture. In the Northeast, it's the culture. New Haven, Connecticut is quote unquote, the pizza capital of the world. And it's because it's in their blood. It's in their culture. Same with like New York and Brooklyn. So
At least I don't
but
live in Chicago and have to eat lasagna for pizza.
Well, so Chicago bar pie or Chicago like thin crust is actually really good. To your point, it's like that cracker crust. But yeah, keep me away from the whole like deep dish. That's just not pizza.
I'll
That's,
eat it. It's not pizza, right? And that's it. It's like the thin crust in Chicago does get the job done for sure. It is the pub style. If you've ever been to Chicago, it's a classic pub style, which is sort of like got a lot of crunch, got a lot of grease. Totally with you on that.
Steve is pointing out his best rigs. I just saw the new title. Steve's upset this morning. Steve is furious, almost as furious as Riggs when he accidentally buys a card on the Colony.
Oh yeah, that was a hilarious watching Riggs kind of. I can explain Riggs. I mean, if Riggs needs help buying cards on the Colony or any other stuff, I tech support my mom on her iPhone all the time when she couldn't figure out how to set up her soundbar. So Riggs, happy to help you with that as needed. I'm happy to be some tech support as a friend. Always
the best part is I attempted to help him, and I'm the one who caused the issue. Like I tried to teach him a workaround or tell him a workaround, and it ended up backfiring.
Yeah, but like I do want to hit on one thing this morning that has been on my mind. We barely touched on this DJT token yesterday for obvious reasons. Like, you know, the address gets shared early. Some people got in on it. Some people made some money. Some people got out of it.
Wait. Before you switch to DJT, you were talking about health. Are you still using the sauna that you bought, Steve?
I use it every day,
Okay,
Joey.
good.
Not only do I use it every day, I will hit this very quickly because not only do I use it every day, and not only do I like it so much that I use it every day, and it was an amazing recommendation by you, sir, Mr. Joey Vowles. Number two, my friend who I talk about, who's like a trainer at a CrossFit gym, I'm officiating their wedding, and you know, they have their wedding coming up, and I was thinking how he'd like this sauna, and Mrs. NFT Bart goes, why don't we get them one of that as their wedding gift? It's my best friend. He was the best man in my wedding, all this good stuff. And, you know, I was like, you know what? That's a great point. And, you know, they've been together for like 10 years or something at this point, and they're finally getting married. So I don't think they're going to break up. I think they're going to make it a few more months. So I did send the wedding gift early, knock on wood. But like, I sent him that, and I sent him a Pirate Nation frigate because he's starting to get into Web3 a little bit. He's starting to do some farming stuff, but he loves it. And he's like, and I was like, it's something you wouldn't have bought for yourself. It's better than us getting, because they don't need fucking plates. They've lived together for 10 years, right? So like getting them that was huge. So not only great reco, but I thought about someone else who might like it, passed it on, and both of them, he's the one who's the CrossFit trainer. They use it every day. He has a makeshift home cold plunge. He's saving up for a nice one, but he just does his buckets of ice and water. So love the sauna, still using that every day, but need to get back to the stretching and the running. But I do want to go off a little bit on the DJT stuff because, and again, I don't want to be hypocritical because I went in and out of this thing. When someone dropped it and said, this might be a token actually related to Donald Trump, I was like, all right, got the early contract address. Let's yeet something into the contract and see what happens. You know, let's buy it because it was very, very early and shared in the war room. Pretty quickly, the thing pumped, sold my initial buy-in, watched it pump a little more. And then when it started to, when they said, like, we want a bounty for who's involved in Donald Trump or who's involved in this DJT coin, and Zach XBT basically submitted something, and I saw that it was probably Martin Shkreli. I think at that point I sold the whole thing. I was like, all right, this is crap, right? So for those who don't know who Martin Shkreli is, you may have missed our pharma bro in the past, few years. So he likes to try to conflate him being a business person with him going to jail. So if you're not familiar with him, basically he gouged the price of a life-saving drug for parasitic infections that was $14 a pill, not cheap to begin with, overnight made it $750 a pill. Basically saying, I want to make money. This is America, but gouge the prices. Now, this isn't like the pharmaceutical industry saying we have certain, orphan drugs at high prices so that we can fund other drugs and fund innovation. And this is how it works. It's like you charge high prices for the really rare diseases. People pay for those prices, and then you fund the other stuff and you get other innovation. This is just somebody gouging the price of a drug. By the way, worth noting, Donald Trump, when this was all happening, talked about how disgusting he thinks Martin Shkreli is, which stands to reason that maybe Barron Trump wouldn't be working with him on launching a coin. He claims that Barron Trump is working with him and he's really behind this and yada, yada, yada. It seems like it's, but basically this guy who then went to jail for unrelated securities fraud. So securities fraud unrelated to the fact that he gouges a life-saving drug for people, gets out of jail, launched this coin. By the way, terms of his parole, he's like not allowed to do any of this from what we understand. Adam Cochran shared a tweet. We can try to find and pin up top that this guy basically can't, he's either going to jail, probably, he's either violating his parole by launching it or violating his parole by supporting the launch, right? And he claims like, oh, the lawyers, like they don't know any better, whatever. This is what, Adam Cochran is saying, right? So a guy who gouged a life-saving drug, went to jail for securities fraud, claims that he launched this with somebody, yet there is no proof. In fact, I believe the Trump campaign has denied it. It got on like Fox Business, and I believe he denied that they had any involvement. Barron Trump has
Roger Stone, I believe, came out as one of the advisors on the campaign. I believe he came out and said that both Donald nor Barron have any involvement in it.
But he's on with Mario Narfall last night saying, oh, I'm in. I have all my money in on this. Oh, it's definitely Barron, and you'd have to be crazy not to say, he's involved based on what we see, all this other stuff. And people are like, so it's just like, I don't know. In this space, sometimes it's like, and on Mint Condition, on Midnight Crisis yesterday, they had this point where they said, if he's doing all this stuff on public blockchains, what the fuck do these people do behind the scenes, the ones that are coming in? Andrew Tate's getting texts and he's somehow involved. It's like, what are we doing? And again, I know I'm not knocking anybody to make money. Like I said, I got in the DJT early being like, hey, if this is like a actual coin that, Donald Trump's pro crypto, if he's actually involved in this thing, maybe he'll actually, not that it would be like the next Mother coin, but imagine Mother coin that Iggy Azalea did, but with Donald Trump running for president and all these. So you're like, okay, like that's interesting. So you get in on that because you're like, if there is a presidential candidate who is pro crypto, who is actually launching their own coin, like, yeah, getting in on this thing early, like this is one of those ones where it's like, if you toss a few on it and I see it just go to like, a gazillion dollars, it's like a retirement plan. Obviously it was not the case. It was a scammer as expected, as everyone thought it might be at the beginning. But being like someone like Martin Shkreli, it's like, I pulled out, I got done with it. But like, when we find these things out, the part that's crazy to me is like, I found out he was involved and I'm like, I'm out on this, right? I sold, I was done. That was the end of it. Other people on the space are listening to it last night being like, hey, this guy's got some point. I think Barron might be behind it. It's now up like 50% or something since he went on that space yesterday and just basically sat there and, more or less was like, yeah, no, totally involved. Believe me, the guy who went to jail for securities fraud, who gouged a life-saving drug, which he's proud of, by the way. He brags about that and still says that that's great and a great move by him. A person who Donald Trump says is like a disgusting human and all these other things, like has basically said how horrible what he did was on camera. You can find the video of it and is like, yeah, Barron Trump's with me on this. Like, it's so sketchy. And I don't know. Like, I'm part of the problem. Like I said, I was like, hey, if this is a real thing, I'm getting in on this thing. But like, it's just, at some point, it gets exhausting when we look at like, oh, let's get the Andrew Tate coin. Let's get, it's like, this is the stuff that it's one end that it's a little bit too in the deep end for me personally. I'm not knocking anybody making money off it. If that's your grind, I'm not like criticizing you, but it gets like exhausting in this space sometimes. I don't know. Joey Valls, go ahead and save me from my rant.
Yeah. I just don't see a world where an individual like Martin, who Trump has already said that he, doesn't like the guy, would somehow allow his son to align with a criminal in an election year with everything going on. Like, I just
to be fair, real quick, Trump is a convicted criminal now as well. I'm not like casting aspersions or whatever, but he is also a convicted felon at this point. So there is,
forget politics at this point, right? Like, let's just think about this as like your 18-year-old son. Okay. He just turned 18. Okay. So, you allow your 18-year-old son, okay, who I would imagine doesn't make decisions without sitting down with his father, especially because he's running for president. But let's take political out, right? Your billion-dollar father, you're 18 years old. I highly doubt you're going to say to your 18-year-old son, hey, yeah, you should align yourself with this convicted criminal that I can't stand to go sell a meme coin about me without I don't see how that's possible. And like, it just doesn't, I don't know, like maybe we're living in a simulation, it's the Matrix and we're all attached to puppet strings, but like I just can't fathom how this is possible. And to your point, if it is truly all lies, which I'm on the side of it is, when are we going, like when do we wake up and like stop allowing this to happen? Or can we even stop allowing this to happen for people to literally get on a space with thousands of people that have the influence of hundreds of thousands of people to blatantly lie about who they're working with?
Well, and that's what it comes down to is like, it's one thing when somebody like, okay, like, and I don't know anything about like, I know there's been some questions people have had around Ansem lately, like whatever. I'm not going to go into the speculation where I don't play in that world enough to know what's true and what's not. That said, like, somebody being like, this is my dog, this is his hat, please buy the meme coin, is very different than trying to say, and that's like, there's a difference between saying like all meme coins are scams. They're not. Like, I've talked about it yesterday in the show. I've changed my mind. I see communities forming. I see a social network. And, hearing B-Check and Legendary talk today, when we got into the space, a lot of us in 2021, we found JPEGs. JPEGs help create not just wealth, but opportunity for many of us. If we were coming back in today and trying to build that same bag, a lot of people would be getting deep in the meme coin degen streets, which, by the way, not horribly different. Like, well, it is ridiculous to call NFTs just meme coins with pictures because there's so many applications for NFTs. It's a powerful software. There were a lot of ones that were meme coins with pictures, shit coins with pictures way back in the early days when we would have things launching every single week. And we'd be like, man, remember this one? Remember this one? Oh, Camels were going to launch a show and have a huge network. And Super Yeti was going to have a game and all these other things, right? So I get that. So like, it's got a similar thing. So I'm not knocking the hustle of meme coins or whatever. It's just when somebody is launching something on a false pretense or a seemingly false pretense, we'll see when the facts come out, right? Like there's going to be at some point, like, but he's claiming he has like 1,000 pieces of evidence to tie Barron to it. It does not seem as though that's the case. To your point, I was kind of saying like, kind of tongue in cheek that, Trump's a convicted felon too. And, we see that, but like, it is a questionable thing to be like, we're launching this thing, under the pretenses that we're working with this president. And it doesn't seem like, again, in an election year, they're like, no, again, if Donald Trump himself was like, I'm going out on a limb, I'm launching this coin, I'm going to use it for things within my campaign. If like that was his choice, like that was like the thesis of this thing being like crazy and being involved in some way. It's not playing out that way. They've denied it. So if the campaign's denying it, and it's just, it feels like, and I don't want to spend like a ton of time on it. It's a thing that like frustrates me when it's like, there are differences between someone launching something and it just being a meme coin and hilarious and something being launched on a false pretense and being propped up on the idea of like, oh yeah, no, totally. Like this person's involved with it if they're not. So
Steve, wouldn't it make more sense though? And if I was Barron Trump and I wanted to align with these people to launch a meme coin, wouldn't you just launch Barron? Then at that point, like you're well known enough that if you really wanted to launch a meme coin, to launch a meme coin called Barron, why would you launch DJT, right? Like, why would you? We have so many Trump meme coins already. I feel like if I'm Barron and I'm really trying to carve my own path, I'm launching Barron. Am I wrong?
It stands to reason, but yeah, and it's who knows, but it's definitely a sketch situation. But that said, we'll go to Beardo in a second. Just a reminder to everybody, we got Arculus coming on, a great, really cool hardware wallet company that's different than anyone I've ever used. Excited to have them on. Not a sponsored interview or anything like that, but they did give us a couple to give away. So if you like, retweet and comment in the room. Let us know if you don't have a hardware wallet. Comment on the conversation. Give us your thoughts. We're going to pick 2 winners. They gave us 2 to give away of this different hardware wallet like I've never seen before. We'll talk more about it when they come on the show, but reminder, like, retweet, comment down below in the chat. Let us know. I've got a couple to ship out, which I am stoked about. Beardo, get in here, GM.
Yeah, GM, thanks for having me out, guys. I think it's a good morning for me to come in. I was already upset about my bubble airdrop this morning, and then I came in and I heard Skrelly, and I was like, no, not that horrible person. So actually, when I kind of first got involved in politics was when he was doing all that stuff. So I'm well aware of him and his douchiness. And yeah, and like there's so many things with this, right? I mean, first of all, this is a guy that I think it was Joey there that said that, he viewed what he did with the I can't remember exactly the drugs. It was a really common drug, but like he viewed that as a good business decision. He still views it as, we're in a space where if you rug a project, there are zero repercussions. I think he'd view that as a pretty good business decision. So just keep that in mind with anything with him for first off. The other part with Baron Trump, I'd be curious, it's Baron's the youngest one, right? Is that what
he's a tall 18-year-old fellow.
18. So is he actually like that's who the coin's supposed to be connected to, is Baron?
Yes.
Yeah. So has he himself actually come out and said, this is not involving me?
The campaign
this is a
denied
common
it.
trick,
The
right?
campaign denied it. So like they had a representative who denied it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd be concerned about that, right? Just because that's a really common trick, is you get somebody else to come in and say the message, and then however long down the road you can come in and say, oh, well, they were wrong. So I mean, until you actually hear it from the horse's mouth, I would be kind of concerned if there is something or not. I don't know at all. Again, do your own research. But yeah, I don't know. The other thing with this is I mean, if it legitimately isn't connected to him, I don't know. I feel like the best strategy from the campaign is to go hard against this. I mean, this could actually bring crypto into being a political issue, is to look at it as far as like bringing proper regulation in the space. How do you stop these kinds of things from happening? From people like Scarelli saying, yeah, I have a coin with so-and-so. What are the actual repercussions that should come into play with that? I think that that's a conversation that the public would be much more interested in than, what we've been talking about so far with crypto and the not really talking about much other than just generally getting donations from crypto. So I mean, like, I don't know, it could be interesting depending on how the campaign takes it. But like I said, I don't know. And until I hear it from the horse's mouth, I wouldn't be sure if it's actually connected to him or not.
Well, and the one thing I want to comment on, appreciate the thoughts, Beardo, is that you mentioned like, oh, there's no repercussions for rug pulls. The answer is, the thing is, there's no repercussions yet. And I keep saying this, like, when you think about something with, like, for example, auditing. When people audit your taxes, audit your finances, oftentimes they go back years and years and years. And the blockchain is a public ledger, which we are going to figure out how to use on the government end sooner than people think. And we're already starting to see various types of, securities fraud, rug pull, etc., consequences happening for people who are starting to get brought to task for some of the behavior within Web3. And so I don't think we are out of the woods with that. I mean, we've seen, we got, even CZ getting himself in situations. So I think it starts with the biggest ones. It works its way down. I don't think, like, that's the thing where it's like, I get shit for being overly cautious about a lot of the things I do in this space. But like, the reason is that the blockchain is forever. So it's like, if you do a rug pull project, like, is it crazy to think down the line they're going to look into this sort of thing and find people who did it? And so I just think Yet is the big one. And Skrelly's a big enough name that he may get to cut the line, because I'll give you two reasons for it. Number one, he may get to cut the line in the eyes of the government because he's a big enough name. Number two, it's a really good perp trot to talk about crypto, especially if you want to go anti-crypto. You can talk about, like, Martin Skrelly's involved. Look, he's the guy who gouged the prices on a life-saving, drug for parasitic infections and then securities fraud. So I think it's not crazy to think that we're going to see stuff down the line in this sort of thing.
I've also heard the conspiracy theory that he's a plant, like he's a Fed, and this is all an inside job.
What would the theory behind that be? Like, though, like, how would that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
On the rabbit hole, I'm just assuming that, like, he, I don't know, like, the terms of his release or anything like that, but that I have no idea. I just saw the headline. That's all I saw. Someone claiming that he is in fact a plant, but who knows?
It is kind of funny to be like, he's a plant. Like, what was he planted for and to do? It's like, I don't know. He's a plant. Like, that's actually the classic conspiracy theory when people are like, it's a plant. And it's like, how is it a plant? And it's like, I don't know. Or maybe they were just saying he is literally a plant. Like, you didn't realize he's actually a plant. He's not a human. He's a tree or something. I don't know. Peter, let you get back real quick before we go to Sheba.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, like regulation on rugs and stuff like that, like it's really good political rhetoric because at the end of the day, it's just talk. When it comes to the actual practice, I think that it's going to be really hard to differentiate this was a rug and this was a project that just kind of went south. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the project
but if you're talking about this specifically, it seems to violate his terms of parole. So in this one individually.
Oh yeah, that I mean, he's committed a crime. He should go back to jail.
Yeah, that was ironclad.
Not necessarily a crime. It's terms of his parole prohibit him from doing this sort of activity. I did pin the Adam Cochran post up above. If you want to dive into the details there of what's included in his parole, it is in Adam's post up above. But yeah, it's not that this is per se a crime, at least what we, at the surface level, what we know or believe to know that he did. However, conditions of his parole could make it he could be, back to prison or jail he goes.
Yeah. Sheba King, go ahead and get in here.
Hello, good morning. Some amazing things that we're talking about here. I fucking hate how much politics is going to be tied into our money for the next 6 to 4 years, possibly, depending on what happens. I could care less about the coin thing. The government doesn't really give a fuck about what we're doing here still, which is pretty crazy. I mean, to a base level, they do. As we talked about, I think there are definitely people being planted in this space to find out some of the bad actors, or they're getting to that point. A little segue is I end up meeting a nice gentleman when I go up camping in my woods who actually worked for the IRS. And I had a really long discussion with him. He's been with them for 18 or 20 years or something like that. And I got his background on how they used to crack down on illegal gambling or drugs or money via the internet and crack down on money being sent. And back then, you couldn't even send $20,000 overseas through an account without getting flagged. So it's crazy how much money we spend nowadays and send, and it goes from border to border without being checked. Even when you go on a plane, you're limited to what you can bring over to other countries. There's certain foods and spices, but we're over here trading NFTs and millions of dollars on the blockchain. So they're eventually catching up, and I can tell you from what that guy told me, the IRS is hiring young people. They are bringing them into the whole crypto space. They're coming in with education on blockchain and then teaching them about it, but it's taking them a long fucking time. And according to what the guy told me, it's going to take them years to even get the stuff that happened since 2017. So it might take 10 years or 20 years, but all the heavy damage a lot of these people have done on the severe level like we've seen, hundreds of millions of dollars that haven't been in trouble yet, they're going to get caught. I can tell you there are a handful of influencers that have been doing fucked up shit that are being watched, and I know they're being watched. So it just takes time, unfortunately, and it really sucks when we get caught and we lose our money. And it's they'll get it back. We'll be fucking 50 before we hear what happens to half those projects in 2021-22. So other than that,
I think yes and no on that. Here's what I would say on that one is I agree to some points, but I also think that part of what makes this space unique for that is that there are people who just part of what I think is different is people have to be more front and center in this space because of the community aspect of it. And so while I think in years past, it would be hard to financial crimes required, linking multiple bank accounts, finding hard evidence, getting individuals who are, flipping and telling you information.
That information. It would take months to put that together on a board, a blackboard with
years sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that blockchain has done, which I don't know why criminals just don't fucking understand this. It's there forever. The government or the people doing the investigation don't have to go through loops and take plane rides to talk to people. It's going to be on the blockchain forever. They'll get to it. They'll get to those crimes. Everything is there. So it's not like the fucking 1970s where you could kill somebody, get a bunch of fucking money, bury the body, and then the government never find out. It's not the way it used to be anymore. There's just too easy to find out where the money's going and who's doing it and shit. So, I mean, look at Zach, a normal human being. That guy's I think he's more professional on the investigation side than 95% of the people in the U.S. government. So, and he won't take a job with the government. I think he's been offered multiple jobs to work for the U.S. and he's like, nah. So, and another thing I can tell you, working for the IRS fucking sucks. The guy that I talked to, they watch him. He worked for the IRS. They pay him whatever, but they watch him like a hawk on his properties, how much money he's spending. They question him. He gets audited every year. They look deep into his shit. And he works for the IRS and for so long. So It's real shit. It definitely is real shit, and that's why criminals in this space are going to continue getting away with it. Why we can't get anywhere.
Well, one thing is for sure, Shiba King has won the two most interesting yet polarizing different stories of his trips into the woods. That's like
you guys think I go up there and party naked? I get shit done. I talk to people. Like presidents of Walmart are up there. Like I'm all of the above.
That was my next question: is what were you wearing during your conversation with said?
I was naked. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Just goes up and like he's actually part of like whatever, like, you know, whatever that secret presidential cult is where they all meet in the woods or whatever. She was part of that group.
Except for naked. Wait, don't get it confused. I do want to, just one more thing is, I want to know how this man at Micro continues to buy $700 million of Bitcoin every 3 months.
That's the we should talk about. Thanks for the segue. Yeah. We've hit our political quota for the day. Appreciate everyone bearing through that. No pun intended. No pun intended. That was bad. I did not.
So much for that one.
That was the wrong word choice. But thanks for hanging out and pressing through the Pharma Bro and political conversations. We did have another very big buy of Bitcoin, Steve. Michael Saylor added about another 800 million worth, just under 12,000 Bitcoin to the MicroStrategy holdings. Another sign of conviction and confidence in the at least.
How, Cap? How is he doing this? How is he going to own 30% of the total Bitcoin supply when this is all done being mined? How is that possible?
Well, specifically how this funding was an $800 million convertible note. Convertible note is essentially a loan. However, there's options in there. The makers can call it with whatever conditions are laid out in the in the term. So they could either call it, they got to pay back the $800 million, or they can convert it to equity in MicroStrategy. I don't know if it's. I guess
that legal. How is that fucking legal? We can't take out nodes and $100 million on our businesses or our homes, can we?
Sure you can.
On that type of level for 700. I mean, is this company really worth $5 billion that he's taken out on it?
No,
so far?
It's all just. I mean, it's just math. Like, yeah, we can't go take out an $800 million loan because we don't have assets to collateralize against it. The reason they could do this is because they're sitting on the valuation of what they're holding now is like $15 billion. So someone will gladly give them $800 million because if they don't pay the loan back, they get to convert that to equity in the business and their fair share of that $15 billion. So if you sit on $15 billion of assets, yeah, someone will give you an $800 million convertible note for sure.
Yeah. It's pennies for those. Like, yeah, for them, Michael Saylor, it's like, that's like, you know, that 800 million convertible note for Michael Saylor is like us finding like $7 in the couch cushions. He has no problem with that. But no, it is interesting because I think like the nice part about Michael Saylor is like, he is just the ultimate Chad in this space as far as like the way he navigates and just is like, yeah, I'm buying more Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin's down. I'm buying more Bitcoin. Like, there's never a question about this one.
Also, in news this morning, I feel it's relevant. I always, like, I'm not one for loss porn. I hate really even talking about floor prices. But I do think it's noteworthy that we're seeing punks being just dumped, like, with aggression right now. There was someone who'd minted, I believe it was 8 or 9 of them, and dumped all of them into bids around 22. And we're still seeing, I think, about of the last dozen sales or so, 8 or 9 of them were also dumped into bids below 22. Not, and it's not even a punk thing. I think it's an NFT ecosystem concern. Although the one thing we have to remember about punks is their holder base is made up is unlike any other holder base in all of NFTs. Like I don't think there's no other collection where someone minted 9 things for free that ran up to, you know, I don't know what their peak was, 300-400 grand, and now we're at, you know, around 100K. Even those, I think even those that minted apes, there's just not. It's I view it as a very different timeline. Like, you know, there's been a lot, you know, 6 figures plus of airdrops for those that minted apes. Punks, some of them, and in this case, like, I guess he would have got his free Meebits that he probably could have eaten, but someone who's been holding onto these assets since 2017 and now decides to dump them into bids, maybe it's a one-off, but I would not be surprised if we see some more capitulation here. And as I've been saying, I am still very, very bearish short term, but I remain incredibly bullish for certain collections, Punk certainly being one of them. Long term, I just don't know when it turns, Steve. I don't know when we hit bottom and things really start catching organic bids. We're clearly not there yet. I've seen some. I actually clapped back at Tyler. Did it a little bit. He said that Luka came back and the the Penguin spiral has stopped, and maybe it's paused, but just the underlying metrics, the loan book just still look really bad. And I do not think the bleeding across all ecosystems is done. We've got Blast TGE coming up next week. Maybe we see some of that rotate back into ETH NFTs. I really don't think so. The more I think about it, I think a good chunk, the majority of that probably stays on Blast, and what doesn't probably gets rotated out into memes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I actually have, and we probably don't have enough time to go all the way down this route, and I know you're going to not. I already know where your mindset is on this one. But I've seen, some people correlate punks and the Yuga purchase to being something that has tainted them for certain holders who are old school, punk-like holders, like OGs. And we know the punks. When we came in, the punks were the things that, I always mention, like when Bored Ape Yacht Club flipped CryptoPunks, it was because, we used to get made fun of. It was like we got these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs and these punks were like the older brother. And, when we flipped him, it was like us, jacking our tighty whities up to our nipples and punching them in the face and saying, haha, look, we're here too, like the younger brother. And now, they came and they flipped back. But I think for a lot of punks, there is sort of a perception about not just NFTs, but Yuga as a holding company.
Yeah. I know some are going to say that it's like an easy person to blame. I don't think it has anything to do with what is happening currently in the market. Like it's just, maybe they could point to the Nina Chanel thing, which after they fudded her, she then turns around and does a drop with Air Jordans. Like, I think it's much, much bigger than Yuga at this point. Could Yuga do some things that restart the NFT market? Sure, but for people that are blaming Yuga, I just come on, really. Like, if that's the case, if Yuga can turn the entire market, then Yuga is actually more powerful than anyone's giving him credit for.
Well, and I think it's not an entire market, but I think for some people, it's been a confluence of events where it was like they liked that punks were provenance, they were old school, they were OG. Then Yuga gets some of the new kid on the block, and punks didn't mind that. I think early on when Yuga and Bored Ape Yacht Club were cooking, to be fair, but I think they put this new person in charge of punks who, again, no issue on my end with, I think it's Natalie Stone is in charge. If I misquote that, let me know. But they see that. They see the partnership they didn't agree with the Nina Chanel stuff, which again, I had no issue with. I get it. Like that's part of her jam. They announced her a long time ago. We, already litigated what the sort of artist in residence could or couldn't do and why it might be different. But I have heard a lot of people say sort of it's been this, it's almost like with me with BAYC when I sold my mutant and stuff where I'm like, it becomes a point of adding up because I sold my mutant and my dog at one point because I'm like, I don't recognize this club that I'm in anymore. Garga admitted that was a problem and how things went and what was going down. So totally get that. But I think for punk holders, maybe it's just sort of like that where it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And at some point they're like, okay, the market's tanking. Yuga doesn't have people controlling punks that we feel good about, which, again, I'm not saying whether I feel that way or not. It's just, some commentary I'm seeing. So I don't know that that's the overall underlying cause because the whole market is definitely in a spiral. But I do think that there is probably, some holders who are doing what a lot of BAYC holders did when I saw all of, we talked about this with BAYC when it was in that point where a lot of OGs who I knew from the beginning who were never sellers were selling or changing PFPs or getting out of it. And it was because they didn't like the direction of the company. So I do wonder if that executional risk has become a thing now. Shiba, go ahead. But before we go back to Shiba and get him back in here, once again, give us a like, a retweet, a comment down below. We got Arculus coming up here in a little bit. If you are in the audience now, feel free to request up. Arculus, I know that we are going to bring up, I believe, Adam Lowe, their chief product officer. So that'll be pretty cool. But, give us a like, a retweet in the room because we're giving away 2 of these.
I got a stat of the day that's kind of mind-blowing, courtesy of Joey Val's in the War Room. YOLO Games, it's purely a degenerate gambling platform on Blast. Did you see the number in the War Room, Steve?
I did not.
How much revenue do you think, how much volume do you think they've done on YOLO Blast?
I honestly couldn't even guess because I've been paying attention.
Flip a coin and guess heads or tails, or you can bet on the ETH chart, the 1 minute chart on ETH. It's about as degenerate as you can get on the degenerate sliding scale. They've been, I guess, a little over a month now. I can't remember when Blast actually started. Days are certainly running together in the far more streets. $1.7 billion. If you don't think there's money to be played in the DGen streets, $1.7 billion. And this is not a game of skill. This is, I guess, maybe you could say the ETH 1 minute chart's a game of skill, but this is like purely games of chance, like coin flips, that 1.7 billion has flowed through.
Yeah, that's kind of bananas. That is like, that just shows that people aren't afraid to gamble a little bit, you know? And so it's you know, it is what it is. It's part of what, it's funny, the YOLO Games drop is the one I missed because I was too lazy. I was like really busy at the time, and they needed you to create a new wallet on Blast is what they asked you to do. And I was like, I'm not creating another wallet with their ref code. I haven't gotten there, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, then you need to play games. I'm like, all right, this is too much work. I just want to farm. And so I didn't end up playing, but it seems like people got really excited about it, and good for YOLO Games. I mean, that's crazy volume, though. I would never expected that much based on what you described it as, although I guess it's nothing surprising in this space. Shiba, saw your hand go down. Feel free to get in here as we, our friends, I think probably 9 or shortly after, our friends at Arculus will be joining us. Again, like, retweet, comment down below. We're giving away 2 hardware wallets from them. Unlike any hardware wallet I've ever used before, I'm pretty stoked about it. I've been playing around with it already, and I'm sure whoever gets it will too. Let us know if you don't even have a hardware wallet. You need to like, retweet, and comment in the space down below to get it, so that when their chief product officer jumps on, we're going to have a nice crowd for them. Again, if you're out there, Adam Lowe, feel free to hit that bottom left request button. We'll bring you up to stage and get that going. But Shiba, go ahead and get in here.
I wanted to make a comment on the CryptoPunk thing. I personally feel like they'll continue to drop just on the basis of exactly what you said, that we don't know where this NFT bottom is going to be or the timing behind it. We constantly talk about this almost every week. Do I think that Yuga Labs is dictating the NFT meta? A little bit. I think a lot of eyes are on Yuga as an investor in Yuga recently, and I think everybody in this room, even if you hate Yuga, I just feel like that they're going to lead the recovery. Bored Apes do well, Mutant Apes do well, maybe Moonbirds, Cool Cats, Doodles, and half of these other projects will start following. But overall, the entire NFT market has been suffering together. So I don't think we could sit on the basis of, it's this and this and this announcement and whatever, or there's an ETF that's going to push us. I honestly think none of that is important here. I think we're going to be sitting in this sideways, unconfirmed space until we get that breakdown on Bitcoin or break off in the all-time high. And if we don't see either of those, we're not going to get anything until the end of the year probably. So there's a very good chance we could be sitting here till October asking these same questions. So diversify and hang out with the people you want to hang out with and collect what you want. That would be the advice, I think. Don't buy a CryptoPunk at 20 ETH. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's there's sort of like micro things that affect the wallet, and there's macro things that affect the wallet. There's micro or the market in this case, right? Like where it's like, I think, the sentiment around crypto, the thing about NFTs we always say is that when you have, NFTs and you have 10,000 of something in a collection, it will, it can be moved very quickly. You talked about it. It costs like in $10 million, somebody could move the BAYC floor significantly up to the point where everyone's feeling really good about it with 10 million, which sounds like a lot to someone like me who doesn't have remotely anywhere close to that number. But for somebody who is has a ton of money or is a, crypto multimillionaire, it was buying ETH when it was like $27, like that might not seem like as much money then. But it also goes the other way where, one farmer dumping can do a lot. Or again, if sentiment shifts on something like, and again, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm more just saying it is definitely something that is worth, being aware of, is that, if, there's somebody who holds a dozen punks who doesn't like what you guys are doing and they dump a dozen punks, like that dumps the floor significantly as you start to move down. So it is possible on the micro. On the macro stuff, I think it is way too complicated for, like, I think a lot of times we oversimplify the macro stuff, where it's like there is a confluence of factors, right, that comes in to the problem here, right? It's like there is, who is going to be in office as president? What are the crypto regulations going to look like in the future? What is the rate environment going to be? What's the stock market doing? Are there like last time we had like stimulus checks showing up and people are like, what do we do with these thousands of dollars? So I think that there is, a lot of large macro factors, and it is hard to know what's going to drive what because no two markets look exactly the same. And if you can see it coming, you would predict it, right? Like if I knew that unequivocally the ETH NFT is going to pass and we're going to see the same exact thing happen that it did with Bitcoin, where the ETH NFT is going to start by a little bit of a pullback and then run up 70% in ETH, well then I'm probably going to put my entire life savings in that, right? Don't do that. Again, not financial advice. This is hyperbole for a reason. But at the same time, like you can't predict what's going to happen. So we're going to play it all different ways. We're going to have different theses, but the macro environment is so hard to predict. And, when we talk about like when are NFTs done bleeding, I think Blur is a large piece of the blame pie. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It just is part of the pie. I think the macro environment obviously comes into play. I think the crypto environment comes into play. There's a lot of things. Like I can't say definitively that there's going to be a run up in Bitcoin and ETH, and therefore NFTs are going to see that. Who knows? The market's much more fractured than it was before. People might go straight into meme coins. It may just be only a few collections that survive. So you just don't know. I guess what we do know is that there are companies that are going to build through it. You can make your best thesis. Like we know Doodles coming on the show on Tuesday next week. We know that Doodles is a brand that's going to be coming out with a film at the Toronto International Film Festival. We know they're moving to base to try to meet more people. So we know that they're trying to make that good faith effort. We know that Yuga Labs has plans to try and focus the club more on the club and has made it its own LLC and has spun off the gaming business and all those other things. We know that Artifact is tied in. Like we know these things to be true, but we don't know what that means correlated to the price of these assets or if they matter. At the end of the day, you need to have a reason to want to be in these. I listened to Welcome Wednesdays yesterday with Cap, and I can see that people have reasons for wanting to be in Bored Ape Yacht Club. With CryptoPunks, I think the goal of owning that Grail OG CryptoPunk for a lot of people makes a lot of sense. So I think it's there, but there needs to be a reason to want to own these things and the value determined that way. So kind of a rant, Cap, but I think we always try to predict these large macro things related to the market. And I guess, like, Cap, let me throw it to you with this question is, do you feel that we're now at the point where it's not necessarily about the NFT market recovering and like whether Luca and Pudgy Penguins crush it? It's about the, and all these different things. Or I should say, it's not about the overall market recovering for NFTs and JPEGs, but more about, because it is an asset class, is it more about just individual companies at this point like it is with any other market? And it's like, we're going to see 4 or 5, and it's not going to be like the market recovers. It's going to be Pudgy Penguins, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and CryptoPunks recover, for example. And do you think it's more like that direction?
Yes, I think it will be massive consolidation. I think the recovery is going to be hated, and it's definitely not going to be all, and that's going to make it more hated. But the few you'd mentioned, there's a few more I'd add in there. They're all for different reasons. You could add Doodles, Suzuki, Meme Land. Those that have tokens coming, they're not going away. They're not going to zero. Those that have real utility, they're not going to zero. They may continue to bleed out quite a bit, but at some point, maybe this is just an extended version of price discovery. Like things were overcooked. We were in a bubble. Like you have to be okay to admit that. Like the 2021 NFT mania was a bubble. It doesn't mean that everything from the bubble is not going to survive and be sustainable, but it does mean that Gary Vee was right. And actually, no, Gary was wrong saying 99%. It's closer to like 99.9% will go to zero and be irrelevant. However, those that survive, and some are going to survive, and I think it is likely we see increase in valuation and floor price that others will want to enter those. There's going to be others, like I think there's 2 survivors. Some that survive and it becomes like they become the pillars of ETH NFTs or NFTs in general. As far as PFP based, community based, etc. This grouping of NFTs. I get NFTs are much broader than that, and that's why I think the era we came through, a handful survive. There's going to be others that survive, but they survive while they're the asset price, the token drops to $20 to $50 and just stays there because that's what people are willing to pay to get in and participate in those experiences. I think that is much more realistic. It's like I've got a cool cat that's listed right now, and while the art's cool, I don't have any other art in my house that's other than my daughter's that is like I've never purchased art that's hung in my house that's 4 figures. So it's like why am I holding this picture of a cat?
I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I'm not taking a shot at Cool Cats here, but for me personally, I'm in and active in the communities I want to be in and active in, and I still have more bandwidth. So I personally, I'm looking to shed and find my, those that I consolidate into. And I've been saying this since early Bear. I just did a very poor job of it, Steve. Like I think I've come to the realization where I thought there would be more. Like when I was thinking the closer to 99% would go to zero and the 1% would survive. And I think it's more closer like 0.01% are going to survive. So I'm not saying that Cool Cats won't survive. They will. Klon's going to keep making art. I just don't know what the heck they're doing from a business standpoint. I don't know what sort of holder utility or holder value there is there. Please don't hate on me for picking on Cool Cats. It's just I'm a bag holder, so I'm picking on my own bags here. That I just don't know why I'm holding that asset. I know why I'm holding my ape, and I have no desire to sell it because I'm enjoying what I'm doing in that ecosystem. I'm really excited about Ape Chain, despite my frustrations with how some of the elections and some of the things have transpired. I think it's a pretty incredible opportunity. I am very excited about Ape Express. That's the for what Pump.Fun is to Solana, Ape Express should be that to Ape Chain. They're bringing back some crypto native Von Frunton has said this. The community like Yuga and specifically Bored Apes did it in reverse, right? A lot of places like they launch a layer 2, launch a blockchain, then coins come, and then NFTs come. Here we did the NFT, then we dropped a coin, then we created a DAO, and now we're launching a blockchain. This is novel. It's never been done before like this, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is a completely new process. So it's very novel. There's going to be a lot of bumps along the way. It's probably going to get uglier before it gets better. But this is what I enjoy. This is why I didn't leave the rabbit hole. See, this is kind of like I enjoy experimenting and building, and the conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks are some of my favorite conversations I've had since entering the space. The common thread is every single one of them is in that ecosystem. So it's not everyone in the community is a quote unquote builder, but I interact with now, I think upwards of 100 or more people on a semi-regular basis that are people that I enjoy interacting with, that I enjoy building with. And it's not just that ecosystem, but to me, I think there's probably 10 or less that really make a comeback. There's going to be probably 10 to 100 that survive, but just kind of maintain and slowly bleed out until they have real price discovery for what they're building. But as far as this online community that others in the space want to be a part of, there's way too much supply, not near enough demand. And I think circling back to yesterday's conversation, as Frank pointed out, you don't really need to hold an NFT to be a part of the quote unquote community. They're all structured a little different in terms of what utility you might be able to access by not holding the NFT. But I think between the community now being connected for a few years, between this growth of meme coins and the meme coin communities, I just have a hard time envisioning a world where people are paying 10 to 150 ETH to join a digital community. Like just for that by itself, right? I don't think we get back to that world. I think we've been there, done that, and people realize I don't need to do that to get what I want out of it. Now, I think there are benefits and values you can realize out of the networking. It's hard to put a $500,000 price tag on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple things that's crazy about that to me is I look at the way that this space goes, and it is bananas to me when I think about, we make the country club comparison with people who say they network, golfing with the same, 5 dudes every other week, 6, 7 dudes.
That still holds, but even further drives home my point, Steve, is most people, with the exception of like the uber wealthy, most people belong to one country club.
Exactly. And I think that there's like multiple opportunities there with people who are varyingly involved. And like, there are people who have an allegiance to their PFP brand, even if they own multiples, to say, no, we want you in this community to work with you. So Working on getting actually Arculus up here now. Had some troubleshooting stuff because good old Google Meet always throws a Google Meet in a location over the space. And even though I tell the Google Calendar not to do it and try to delete it, often gets us a little bit twisted. So we're working on getting Adam up here. We're going to start with Arculus in a second. We're going to speed run hands here on this thoughts. We're going to go 30 seconds or less with Joey and Sheba here in a second because we got Adam on stage from Arculus. Really excited about this. But do us a favor. Give us a like, a retweet, and a comment down below. Let us know if you own a hardware wallet. Let us know if you don't. We're going to pick 2 winners today because Arculus has been kind enough to give us 2 hardware wallets to give away. As mentioned, I've been playing around with it this morning. I played around with it over the weekend. They sent a couple out for us to give away. And I can tell you again, unlike any hardware wallet device I have ever used. So, if you don't have one, you're going to want to get it. It's a little bit of an upgrade, as we'll talk about here, from the thumb drive that points in and sometimes it dies and all that good stuff. So retweet, comment down below. We will pick 2 winners. Could be a comment on the topics we talked about. Could be a question for Arculus as we go through it. Could even be just a GM. Give us something in there. Let us know if you own one. But let's go 30 seconds or less onto Joey Vowels and Sheba, and then we'll talk to Adam all about Arculus and what we learned at Consensus, which was very, very cool. But Joey Vowels, get back in here.
Yeah, I raised my hand because Cap was talking about cool cats, and it made me start to think about a lot of these other projects, like in that similar situation where, like, I do believe that the artists will continue to create art, but at what point do we look at them and say, okay, it's nothing more than just a cool PFP versus there's a business here. And I think that's where either the founders themselves or the community, I don't know if it comes from the community or it comes from the founders, where Kevin O'Leary says on Shark Tank, like, just take it behind the barn and shoot it, right? Like, at some point, you just got to kind of raise your hand and be like, okay, listen, we're just a really cool PFP. That's really cool art. We tried to build a business. It didn't work. And if you want to hang out for the vibes, cool, right? Because at some point, like, somebody has to do that, I think.
Although, Joey, that's what your buddy Frank does, and you critique Frank, and that's exactly what he did 18 months ago. We're not going to go down the Frank debate rabbit hole. I'll let you go there, but like,
real quick.
He said that 18 months ago.
Yes, but my issue with Frank, and Riggs said this in the DGen chat, is the amount of money that he took before making that decision, right? Like, the amount of money he raised or the amount of money he took extracted before making that decision is where I have the issue. Like the taking the grant from Polygon to build a business, and then
which they returned.
Correct. But there's a lot of other things they've done too. So, now I have more respect for him in what he's doing, which is, hey, listen, we're a community. We're vibes. This is who we are. Like, you want to buy some meme coins. You want to get some airdrops. Like, I have more respect for what he's doing now than what he did before.
Joey Vowels, PFP for the colony. PFP coming in soon. D-Gods coming up. Joey Vowels, the newest member.
I would buy a Utes over D-Gods.
You could be the president of Utes and D-Gods. Joey Vowels coming through. No, I kid. But Sheba, let's get you in here, and then we will switch to our new friend Adam to stage. We'll talk to him in a little bit here. But Sheba, 30 seconds or less. Let's get your thoughts on this.
Oh, man, I had a whole different route I was going to take this, but now I'm going to make fun of Joey for saying that he's going to go to D-Gods and Utes. I mean, I think there's less people in that community there is in Moonbirds, to be honest with you. So good luck with that. The quick segue.
But my PFP wouldn't look like a pile of turds.
Mine do not look like turds. This is revamped art. I mean, come on now. Colin spent a lot of time on this. All right, now I'm wasting my 30 seconds. Now I have 7 seconds left. I appreciate the time, and I really love the space. Shout out to people that spend every day with us. Shout out to Adam for spending time with us and giving away some things. I'm going to move down because I got some shit to do and maybe go on a hike. But see you later. Bye, Joey. Good luck buying your Utes. Thanks, Cap. Thanks, Steve.
Awesome. No, I think, first of all, Sheba, I love it. Appreciate everybody else who stops by with us today as well. Because we do this every day for 2 hours, and the fact that we're able to get a good group here every day is awesome. Sheba, enjoy your hike. Joey, obviously I kid, I give you a hard time, but I do think maybe another day, a good discussion about sort of like, the business and the pivot and what they've done. But that said, we're going to pivot over into a real product that was being built. So Cap and I mentioned we went to Consensus, And when we went to Consensus, we saw businesses that were, like it was our first time going to Consensus. We've gone to all the other conferences and everyone said, you got to get to Consensus. It always crossed over with other things we had going on. And finally said, let's get down there. There were businesses and conversations we had there, whether it was blockchains, future AI products, or Arculus who were talking to you today, who really piqued our interest. And this one was super interesting. We spent probably about 20 minutes, half hour at the booth, just talking about what this was, where it came from, and everything that was being built out there. Because a lot of the world that's being built in crypto right now happens outside of Twitter, outside of X, in the sort of, behind the scenes. And a lot of it is going to be more friendly consumer-facing products. So, Adam, before we jump in, I just want to make sure, I'm guessing one of your first X spaces just based on a couple of things, which is totally cool. That actually makes us happy. We want to be a soft landing zone. Adam, can you unmute? Can we check the mic? Can we see how you're doing?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Sounds great. So Adam, before we get into what the product is, I would love to get your background a little bit, you and the team's background, and then we'll talk about what you're building a little bit. So talk about yourself, the team, because I think that part was equally impressive.
Thank you. And yeah, I've done a couple Twitter spaces. The challenge is the Arculus Twitter is like locked down 6 ways from Sunday with 2FA, and that person's not here today, so it was a little bit of a scramble to get in. So anyway, Arculus is our digital asset and digital identity company that's built within CompoSecure. So CompoSecure is actually a pretty large company, publicly traded, that touches probably a lot of your lives. So we make almost all of the metal payment cards in the world, have made national IDs, have made in our secure manufacturing facility things that people use in the payment space every day. So we took that 20-year expertise, making payment cards and identity cards and other kind of cryptographic things that people use in their everyday lives, and then added elliptic curve. So I've been with the company about 10 years, and maybe 3 years ago, given a personal passion for crypto and self-sovereignty, added elliptic curve to our payment cards. And that allowed us to essentially make hardware wallets. It even allowed us to make, quote, YubiKey on a card. So now you can have, a credential in your pocket that's your payment card, is your hardware wallet, and is your hardware authenticator all in one. And that's what we're doing at Arculus, because I really believe that security, should be safe, simple, and secure. It doesn't have to be one or the other, like a lot of hardware wallets. And I'm trying to get, safety and security out there to everybody in a way they can use every day.
That's awesome. You mentioned your own personal sort of passion for the crypto space as you were looking at it. And before we get into that, because I want to talk about like why crypto and what got you here and what gets you excited and where you play around, you mentioned making a lot of the metal cards that people have interacted with. Can you give like are you allowed to mention specific companies or examples of those so people can see how sort of like, because sometimes crypto companies come in and they're startups, and not that they're not legitimate, they're just startups. You're far from that, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm allowed to talk about any card that's in the public market. So all of the American Express metal, all of the Chase metal, N26 in Europe, Lloyd's, all the new Robinhood stuff, on and on and on. So, well over 80% of the market share of metal cards is ours. So if you think of a cool metal card program, it is highly, highly likely at ours, whether it be the solid gold stuff from Robinhood, to the Chase, Amazon Prime card that many, many people have. So yes, we've been in the business a long time, trusted by some of the largest banks in the world to do their payment credentials and their security.
It's awesome. And yeah, it's a huge market and something y'all are doing. And you mentioned getting into the crypto space. You mentioned it being kind of a passion. How did that sort of like, what's the deeper story of that, how that came to be? Because I just to give background, like, I consult with large companies. I've worked at large companies. I wrote a book about this stuff. And it was a bestseller on Amazon, all this stuff. But sometimes when I come in and talk crypto or NFTs, I get shut down pretty quickly, or at least until recently. So how did this come to be? Was it just a logical next step? Like, how does this whole thing come to be?
Sure. So I think it's two things. One, it was sort of an internal founding. I give our CEO a lot of credit. I asked for a little bit of money and some space, and I said, I'll build you some more cool stuff. And he listened, and that's kind of the very beginnings of Arculus. The reason I got into it was, like I said, mainly, a passion for self-sovereignty and freedom and choice. And that is how I see the blockchain and crypto. So whether you want to hold all stables and be fully dollarized, or you want to, really diverse crypto set, whether you're into meme coins or NFTs, to me, it's all about choice and about something that you can take in your pocket globally that's immutable. The government can't mute it. Private orgs can't mute it, right? It's immutable, and that's the magic of the blockchain. So I think that really strong desire for freedom and choice is part of what made me really interested in the space. And given that what we did, a hardware wallet and extending security seemed like a logical choice and a logical way that we could expand the business and help people. So, I really do believe in keeping people safe and secure and helping people. So, we've done that in payments a long time. We're doing that in crypto now. Before that, I was in defense at a not-for-profit defense company that kept the warfighter and intelligence community safe. So I guess with technology, I've been trying to keep people safe for the last 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I love that background and kind of what you talk about there, as well as by the way, everybody, as we go into this once more, give us a like, a retweet, a comment, a bookmark down below. If you already commented, comment again. Give yourself another chance to win, because we are giving away 2 of these. Arculus has been generous to give us 2 of the cards, which are, again, very slick. So before we get into the actual physical product, you talk about, a little bit about the opportunity to have choices, why it's a logical extension of the business. Can you talk a little bit about the market opportunity as you see it in crypto for a business like yours? Was that part of it, of looking at this is us staking our claim to get into because a lot of people talk about streaming video, for example. Blockbuster didn't buy Netflix for a billion or something when they were worth or $1 million when they were worth several billion. And then streaming became a thing. Is this one, you getting in front of a market that you believe is going to be up there? And have you looked at kind of what the market opportunity from a cost perspective for something like this? Because it seems like a logical extension. And was that part of what really kind of pushed you all over the edge?
Yeah, we certainly look at it as a major part of payments and commerce in the future, right? So, right now we talk about digital assets and traditional assets, and we talk about kind of traditional identity and digital identity. And, I really believe those are going to merge. And, in the same way that, think about the 1890s, right? And all the different railroads merging. And then that moment where all of the railroads were interconnected was really valuable. So in the same way, all of these different payment rails and fiducial rails are going to merge in the future. And we want to be a place where all of those work and all of those can interconnect. So I'm really looking to add value and let people use their crypto, use whatever digital asset over whatever rail, wherever globally. And that's hard, but we're doing that, and we're working with some of the largest payment providers in the world to help facilitate that. So, I'm looking at putting a, beautiful piece of metal in your pocket that allows you to use whatever asset, wherever, anywhere.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the product itself. Like I said, we went down to Consensus, we saw it at the booth, and we said, oh my God, what is this? And at first we were like, well, who's custodying it? And what is that? And learning all about the product being self-custody and how it works was really interesting to us. So talk about the product. And if you haven't seen it, you can go, I'll pin up to the top in a second, or you can see Cap's already pinned up to the top. You can start to see some of the product if you look on there. Talk about the product itself that people are interacting with and how it is different than other products in the market.
Sure. So our consumer product is a hardware wallet, as we mentioned. So it is a smart card. So we take a cool metal card, same type of card that we make for American Express Platinum, et cetera. And we put a chip inside that is the same type of chip that's in the US passport. So that chip generates, stores, and manages all of your private keys. So, right, that's extremely important because, as we say, right, not your keys, not your crypto. So here you have full self-custody and full control over your crypto, NFTs, whatever digital asset that you hold. So inside that card, it's fully managed. So as we say, your keys are fully offline, fully secure in your pocket, right? So the security is where it should be, offline. And then you have the rich GUI of the app to manage your NFTs and manage your assets in the phone. Also importantly, it's 3 independent factors of defense. So it's something you have, which is that specific card, something you know, which is the PIN managed on the card, and something you are, which is your biometric on device. So I could literally, anyone in this chat, I could hand you my phone, I could hand you my Arculus card, and I'm not worried about my digital assets. You don't look like me, you don't have my biometric, and you don't have my PIN. So, it's easy to use hardware wallet for everybody. No tiny buttons, no little weird USB stick, no math degree required.
Can I interject, Adam? Like what you just said there, it's like I think this is like it took me a minute to grasp this at the site in Consensus. I just would like you to repeat that. Like the think of it as if paying with crypto or using your crypto wallet became as easy as using Apple Pay. Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, I mean, we came up with a tagline that I like is one tap total security, because that's it. You tap your card, you go through the same motions you go through every day, and you have the highest level of zero trust authentication. So it really is security and ease of use. I know you usually have to pick one, but it was my mission to get both.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I used to make the joke with my ledger that, it was so complicated I couldn't rob myself, so nobody could rob me. It's like if I can't even send money or use this device, then certainly it's safe. So I'm sacrificing that. But this is kind of a little bit the best of both worlds from my use case and even early on. So for people who don't know to set it up, just give them a rundown. It's so you send this, this very sort of consumer friendly explanation guide. It's a very sort of almost luxury experience. I want to actually talk about the packaging a little bit before we get into even some of the device things as I've used it, because the packaging reminds me. So I have a Delta Amex from because I fly a lot, so it just makes sense. I pay the fee, but I get more than my fee's worth of stuff with how much I fly. And I remember it coming in this big, beautiful box with the whole deck and everything else. You have a very almost like upscale, luxurious packaging. Was that sort of intentional to give an experience as someone was opening it? Like, how did you approach it versus just like, hey, we're going to send you a card in an envelope like my, maybe some of my visas I get?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, thank you for being an Amex customer made in New Jersey here at the factory. So, we absolutely were inspired by some of our customers and the really cool packaging that they've done. Compo, when I look back that decade here, really was doing the experience economy before the experience economy was a thing. So, giving a new user that feeling of having an experience when they open the box, when they use the product for the first time is important because it's not just a utility device, right? We don't make just a hardware wallet that's a commodity. We make a premium hardware wallet. It's easy to use, best security, and it feels good and it looks cool. So it's really important to me as a product owner to hit on all those cylinders. So the messaging in the box itself, the experience, the look, all of that's really important to me because, right, we're all first movers in this space and we want to feel good doing it. And we're all very, very early. And, the reward for that's being the cool kid on the block, right? And part of that's having a cool hardware wallet.
Yeah, it really is like part of an experience where you open the box, you tap the card, and for people who don't know in the setup, we'll let Joey Val's get in here with the question here in a second, but it's like it is a physical card that reminds me of my Amex card, which makes sense. It is a physical card that you basically download an app, you tap it to your phone, but they literally have it where it's like, get started. You scan a QR code. It takes you to the app store. You download the app based on what device you have. Then you go from the app store, you tap it in. It gives you a seed phrase. You choose your seed phrase, lets you set up a PIN, lets you set up your Face ID. And then immediately, within probably about, I would say, 5 to 7 minutes of setup, I'm sending crypto from one wallet to the other. I tested it and sent it back from one. I sent it back to another wallet. It was very easy to use. You simply tap the card to the back like you would. And many of us are familiar with the NFC chip, non-near frequency communication chip in this space that we use for clothing. Very similar, just tap and it moves. So just a cool concept of the actual experience. So again, compare that experience of I want to send money. I sent Sol from one wallet to another wallet to another wallet. And I simply looked at my phone, put in my passcode, checked my Face ID, tapped the back, Sol gets sent instantly, safely, and I can keep it in my wallet like anything else. Again, this is like the type of thing where it's like you can actually, for a hardware wallet, storing your assets securely. It's very different than programming it, plugging in, making sure the device works, all those good things, and can let you sort of have your assets. And to your point about being able to pay everywhere, I was at an all-inclusive resort, and I was like, man, I would love to just be able to tip these people in a cryptocurrency or something because it's, international, travels over, no problem. And this would solve that problem for me versus me, having to figure everything else out. So I love that that concept and what you've built and the ease of use there that you have. Joey Valls, I want to let you get in here with a question because I saw your hand fly up as Adam was talking.
Yeah, it's kind of what you already started to talk about, which is like the usage process, right? So I know in the video it shows working with a phone. How does it work with desktop? And maybe I just didn't, I've been looking around the website, but how does it work when using with desktop? And then the other big question is, I had a really scary situation where I had my when I was traveling to Mexico, I had my ledger with me because it was the OCM Dimensions 300 mint, and I accidentally left the ledger in my headphone case, which I left on the plane. And thankfully, I got it, and I didn't lose everything. But like, do you guys have any systems in place that if something happens to the card gets lost, stolen, lose access, is it recoverable? So 2 questions.
Sure. So first, I'll start with the recovery one. If I lose my Arculus card, I don't worry about it because, again, if anybody finds it, it's secure. And for me, I just pop in my recovery phrase, right? So it's the standard 12 or 24 word recovery phrase. You get a new Arculus card, a couple minutes, you enter your phrase, regenerates the keys on the new card, set up your PIN, and you're back in business. So, I don't sweat recovery at all. And then your first question, remind me your first question. Sorry, when I hear security questions, my mind immediately blanks on everything.
How do you connect via desktop if I'm connecting through the app on my phone?
Sure, that's a great question. So there's a couple different ways depending on what you want to accomplish. The first, right, as most of our ecosystem is Wallet Connect friendly. So we can Wallet Connect across any chain that site supports. So whether it be the kind of Cosmos ecosystem, any of the EVMs, et cetera, you can Wallet Connect into your favorite desktop site. The second is if you're a MetaMask user, you can actually, instead of keeping the keys in your browser, use Arculus to sign for MetaMask. So Arculus can be a hardware signer for the MetaMask ecosystem as well.
So awesome. just load the wallet into my MetaMask essentially?
Yeah, so you fire up MetaMask. Here, let me go through the motions so I say this correctly. So you fire up MetaMask and then, sorry, it's still loading. You basically click add wallet and you click add hardware wallet, and then you go down and it says QR code. And it's you're basically passing a QR code back and forth. So MetaMask will give you the unsigned transaction. You take a picture of that with Arculus using the little MetaMask button. Arculus will sign the transaction, generate the signed transaction as a QR code. You pass that back to MetaMask, and then MetaMask will broadcast the transaction. So it's fully compliant with MetaMask.
So you do it all on your. So essentially, you load it into your MetaMask, but then you perform like with Ledger, how I'm like putting in my code, right, and then. Instead, I'm just doing it on my phone to approve the transactions.
Yeah, so you can still use the MetaMask interface on the desktop. It's just your keys are offline on your card. So you're just doing the signing event on the phone, tapping the card. So you have the UI of the phone to help guide you along, as well as the desktop, but the keys are on the card.
It's awesome. No, I love that. I love the integration that you have there as well. And I think that it's a very smart product. And I think the way you logically extended your business, I guess like one back question that, I still love these origin stories. And I want to kind of get back into that a little bit and talk a little bit about what it's like operating in this environment, because it's a little riskier at times. But like, did the idea come, I guess, from we want to get involved in the cryptocurrency space because we have that, how can we do it, and then start to think about it? Or did somebody just have like this light bulb moment of, our cards can be a hardware wallet and then back into it the other way? Like, how does that sort of order of operations come to be when you're having that conversation at your company?
It was a little bit of both. So, I mean, I thought about it and designed on it a bit before I took it to our CEO. it did strike me as I was getting into the space, and especially 3 years ago or even longer, right? There just weren't a lot of systems that were usable by normal people. There weren't a lot of systems, period. So, kind of being a builder, I wanted to build something for everybody. And thinking about what we had, anytime you're building, you want to think about what assets do I have? What assets do I need to get? How can I build this? I looked to what we had, which were smart cards. And the nice thing about this is that they're already ID credentials. They're already little cryptography engines in your pocket. So I thought, well, how can we extend this, and how can we add crypto? So it was, I guess, sort of simultaneous of, one, you always want to grow the business, but two, it's a personal passion, and it's a personal passion that, I thought that we could find a market around, because, you guys were chatting right before I jumped in about sometimes people build things that are cool, but it's not a business. I've done that in my own free time, but I'm not going to do that with the business. So, here it's bringing value to the space, but I thought it was also a very legitimate business that we could expand into.
And now, like, one of the things I'm always curious about is what it's like to operate in the unknown area, because financial payments is heavily regulated to begin with, right? It's a heavily regulated space, and right now cryptocurrency is a little bit still of a wild west. We're waiting for regulations to come through Congress. You are a U.S. operated business, so like, what is it like? You mentioned this is made in New Jersey and all these different, so like, what is it like operating in that environment? And do you have any nerves about getting involved in an industry which is seemingly uncertain at the moment, as we head into an election season where we're getting a lot of back and forth surrounding crypto?
Yeah, it's been challenging, especially when we were deep in the bear market. I had to kind of hold to my guns and be like, no, guys, this is it. If you want to bet against the rail, if you want to bet on a horse instead of the automobile, good luck. But we got to stick to our guns here. So it has been challenging. It also means memorizing a lot of things depending on the country. So, I'll give you an example. My corporate card that we created spends USDC at any Visa terminal in the world. So, and Visa settles in that USDC. So when I tap, right, it's my self-custodied USDC sitting in a smart contract that I won't go through all of the rails and hoops, but, gets directly sent to Visa over the traditional rails, and then Visa settles it in that USDC. So it is happening. It's even happening here in the United States, but it is more complicated. It would be much easier for me to go create a spend crypto, spend Sol, spend Sui, spend Aptos at some other countries in Asia or potentially Europe, as long as it complies with MiCA. So yes, it has been very hard, and there's a lot of nuance in conversations. It's hard in sales, right? Because people want a very easy message. So when you have to go to a banking customer or customer in general and go, well, you can launch this crypto payments product, but where? Oh, okay. So it's these rules. And if you want to launch globally, it's those rules. And it's very, very challenging. And just get a VPN is not the answer at that level of business.
Can I ask a question about the back end, the business model, the fees? And if you can't answer, fully respect that as well. But DC Investor just put out a very timely post. I'll quote it for those listening in. Credit card fees typically charge businesses who accept them 1.5% to 3.5% of transactions, often referred to as a discount rate. This is an insane number when you consider the average small restaurant only makes a profit margin of 3 to 6%, literally giving half their profit to a payment processor in some cases. Massive opportunity for disruption. I get to, like, this was kind of an aha moment for me, because I've never felt that currency was a real use case. Like Bitcoin, yeah, it's a store of value. ETH, we're building on it. But just the idea of going and transacting in my everyday life in crypto, it's never made sense until now. And this is where I think it starts to make sense when I can go and my interaction is swiping this card or tapping this card just like I would normally. And instead of using fiat, I'm using USDC. All of a sudden, not only does it start making sense for me, but for those businesses on the back end, is this, and maybe it's a future state, because I know you mentioned Visa is still involved, so maybe there's actually a premium on the fees and not a cost savings, but is the fee savings something that's attractive to businesses either currently or potentially in the future by accepting crypto as payment?
Yes, so it depends on the rail. So yeah, the 1.5% to 3% are US rates. It's much lower globally. So that in the industry is called interchange. So the business, let's say you're buying $100 of stuff, the business will get, $97 on a higher interchange credit fee rate. That's charged by the issuer. So most of that goes to the bank. And that's where that most of $3 of money goes. So Visa gets a small slice, processors get a small slice, but the bank gets most of that interchange. So the magic of what we're trying to build with Arculus is, for now, we certainly need to work on Visa, MasterCard, Amex, whatever, because acceptance, right? Like there's very few Solana Pay terminals in the world. I think that and things like that will change over time, and people will more directly accept stables and or native crypto. We demoed at a Solana Hacker House recently. The same card can do the first tap to pay Solana Pay. So normally it's a whole QR code back and forth. It's not super fun. But we demoed on a terminal that we could directly pay in Sol or USDC on Sol to buy coffee or whatever. So we did that at the Brooklyn Hacker House, and we'll demo similar at the London Hacker House next month. So we can do crypto rails, we can do traditional payment rails, and I think it's important for quite a while that we do both. So if you look at historically in the payments industry, everything has around a 20-year tail, meaning like from the day somebody declares something, quote, dead, it will be actually dead about 20 years after that.
It's fascinating. No, it's interesting too, Cap. I think, sorry, Cap, are you going to get back in there? My bad. No, maybe not. All right. I was going to say, I find it interesting, when you even talk about the credit card fee. So is then the long-term viability goal basically to say hey, this card, whether you're paying through Apple Pay or whatever you want to do, you can basically go to the long-term goal would be you go to a store, you go to a merchant, maybe it's a person who's even selling things on, in a farmer's market or a street, and you want to pay them in crypto versus paying them in credit cards to avoid those fees, trying to get things out. And it's okay, I can pay you sort of, tap my phone, send it wherever, and basically Face ID tap, and it goes through. Is the idea that this is, or let me ask you this actually in a different way. Would you release a different product that is more of a hot wallet where it's essentially spending your crypto via a credit card without the levels of verification? Or is that that's maybe a step too far based on the self-custody? There's a little more risk there. Would you release that sort of a product for someone like us to potentially use?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I think that our goal, certainly for the near term, is to make self-custody as easy as possible and as kind of instant as possible. Because even if you're at, that farmer's market, there's a local pizza place here that takes Litecoin, right? So I purposely, because I, want to push the community, I purposely shop there, and that's my pizza place because I can go buy pizza with Litecoin. So, whether it's Sol, whether it's some other currency, I do think people with that preference are going to do that, and they're going to migrate over time. So in short, I don't see us releasing a hot wallet. I think I see us continuing to make self-custody as seamless and easy yet secure as possible. And you can even see that on exchanges, right? Exchanges want to be more and more a clearance desk, more like a traditional broker. And I think that's why you see more and more exchanges either growing or developing their own self-custody wallets, right? So there's a Robinhood wallet that's self-custody. There's an Uphold wallet that's self-custody now. Crypto.com has had a self-custody wallet forever. Coinbase has theirs, right? So they get it, and they want people to sometimes trade on their desk, but most of the time they want people holding their own crypto.
Is there have you had pushback? By the way, we're still going to pick a winner, so get in there. I'm picking the first one right now, and it's going to be Dort. I don't know if you've seen, I pinned a couple things at the top, Adam, that if you click on those tweets, Dort made a couple of, this is our creativity of our audience. He's got an Arculus dunking over a ledger in one, where it's an Anthony Edwards dunk. And then in the next one, he has the Sparta scene with an Arculus kicking a ledger into a pit. So a lot of good creativity there. I'll share those with you via email after the show just to see some of I'll try to find some good comments to share with you after the show just because these are fun ones. But Dort, big winner, I think, for the first one. So Dort, I know, we follow each other. So just DM me an address and I will get you one of the Arculuses for sure, because this is a very cool concept that you've had here. Within your industry, because you do make traditional credit cards, which is TradFi, has there been pushback, or is there worry about what your sort of current clients or people you work with or partners think about you dabbling in this new world? Was that a friction point? Did that have sand in the gears at all, or were they totally cool with it?
No, they're pretty cool with it. I would say it ranges from, wow, that's really cool, great to see you innovate, to meh, whatever. But I haven't got any pushback or friction, right? And we have the spectrum of, some of the largest, several 100-year-old banks to bleeding edge fintech, right? And the fintechs of the world are super excited about it and want to learn how they can get it and put it on their platform and et cetera. So we have that spectrum across our traditional TradFi customer base. And then people like Visa, MasterCard love it. I mean, I talk to their product guys all the time. They have a huge crypto Web3 team, both of them. So they see this as the next rail. They see, I don't want to speak for them, but, Raj and MasterCard, Kai at Visa have given plenty of talks about this, where they see Web3 as the next kind of iteration of their networks and how they're going to interact with it and how they're going to bring value and be a settlement layer and do FX to, go from USDC to dollars where you need them. So yeah, they're excited.
Go, Cap. I was just going to say real quick. I was going to say, it didn't even hit me that even doing this becomes a biz dev for your current clients versus I immediately went to oh, they could not like this, but it actually becomes somewhat biz dev for new clients where you could be like, we can do this because we've been doing this. Sorry, Cap, go ahead. I just had that aha moment where I went from I'm so used to having people, talking to less, crypto friendly people, I think in my experience, that I immediately went to oh, they must not like this. No, they like this. And it's actually, again, a potential biz dev opportunity based in the business. But Kat, go ahead.
It's really, my thoughts are similar. It's really exciting to hear. And even though it's been out there, just to I think it is a really big deal. My question, Adam, is you mentioned right now, it's the strategy is both traditional and crypto rails. And I agree. You got to have both today. Do you think this eventually goes all on chain, or do you think the traditional rails will stick around forever?
I think they'll merge. So I think traditional rails will have a very long tail. It's very hard to change this infrastructure. Think about the pipes and wires that are buried under your street or something. So imagine trying to change, literal physical infrastructure. It's as hard or harder than payments. You have to have a lot of backwards compatibility. It takes a long time to change things. So imagine changing literally terminal by terminal, kernel by kernel, payments rails. It just takes a long time. I think that the interesting bit will be kind of public chains versus private chains and how those are used and how those are going to merge. Different people in the space have different opinions. I'm strongly biased towards public chains and just complete, trustless, permissionless use. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that as people can form a compliant business case, a reasonably compliant business case to a given jurisdiction, we'll be able to use public chains for commerce and stay that way. Fast EVMs of the world look interesting. Kind of the Aptos and Suis of the world look interesting. Sol looks interesting, because you need that sub-second settlement, at least in the payment space.
This is so friggin' exciting to me. This is like when I talk about the like a lot of products. So we get to use a lot of different products. We get to involve with a lot of different brands. And the reason why this excited me and I'm excited to have this conversation is, one, it's fun to hear builders who are actually building real businesses, real products, to your point. Not everybody always is. And early on in any space, there's entrepreneurs who are going to try things. Some work, some don't. But this is one of those things where, we heard about it at Consensus. We had a great conversation with the people you had staffed at the booth, were unbelievably knowledgeable and helpful. And then when we went through it, I'm like, there's no way it's as simple as they're claiming it's going to be. There's no way that this product's going to be as good as it claims to be. But lo and behold, here we are. I used it, and I'm going to this is a product where we get products often that we use that sound really great. They give us a pitch, and it's sort of almost like a Tinder picture. I'm not single. I haven't been single for years. So I don't know what that is, but so I've heard that it's like a Tinder picture where it's it looks really awesome, and then you meet the person, you're like, you don't look anything like that. But in this case, it actually delivers on kind of what you said because you have that experience, which I think is really interesting and really fascinating. I guess as we get ready to kind of close out here, and appreciate your time and working through us with it and jumping on, is there anything else that we didn't ask you related to the product, or anything else that we should our audience should know if they want to get one? Like, what next steps should they take besides the next winner that we're going to pick, or I'm going to mail one to? What else should our audience know if they want to get one, if they want to potentially interact with it? Like, what should they do?
Sure. So if you're not lucky enough to win the next one, you can go to getarculus.com and pick up one directly. Have the cool silver one, or it's in black. So you kind of got a couple available. If you want to follow all of the latest features, chains we're adding, anything else that we're adding to the platform, you can follow at This Is Arculus and see all the cool stuff we're doing there.
Awesome. No, this is so cool. This has been a great conversation. Appreciate you stopping by this morning. We'll pick a second winner as we go through, but I'm stoked about this one. I think this is what innovation looks like in this space. It's little piece by little piece, builders building out things that make different pieces of infrastructure. And it is something that is, again, very friendly, feels very upscale. I think you nailed the cool factor. It just shows that you're thinking about all the different pieces, whether it's the marketing of it, how it's perceived. So appreciate you. Thanks for joining us this morning, Adam.
Thanks, man. Had a good time.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Cap, I'm excited. We need to pick a second winner. I'm actually going to let you scroll through and pick our second winner from the chat, because I picked one already with Dort. Seemed like a great one. I'll send Adam those gifts afterwards, because I think Dort, that was pretty cool that he spun those up on the spot. Creative way to get in the chat to win one. But I love these conversations. I know we were really excited at Consensus because it's a real product. It's something that our audience would be interested in and use. It's something that I am going to continue to use. Like, this is going in my wallet as a thing to use all over the place. And, I think a lot of people have multiple wallets, but for me, like, if I'm traveling and I want to send people, money, me, I am very sketched about keeping stuff on my phone, especially as it relates to crypto. This makes me feel a lot safer and a lot better about it. So I don't know, Cap, curious your thoughts on the conversation.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Sorry, I was scanning the comments looking for a winner there. As I said earlier, we've been talking like consumer apps, right? Like whether you're participating in Fantasy Top or Pump.Fun, like we're really seeing successful from a revenue generation standpoint, consumer apps being built on chain. We really haven't had much, if any, consumer friendly hardware. Right? Like all up to this point, I think it's safe to say now, shout out to, we've had Grid Plus on here before. Great consumer-friendly product, complete other end of the spectrum in terms of form factor than this Arculus card, right? One is a desktop-only unit, one is thin enough you can carry in your wallet. So two vastly different form factors. I can't think of another like real consumer, like the idea of like the USB drive with a couple buttons on it. Like, it's amazing that my buttons haven't broken yet, Steve. I saw that Legendary pumped out 10,000 transactions farming Blast. Like, I don't know how you survive. I don't know how one of those things survives, clicking that many times. It's like cheap. It is cheap hardware. And to think that like we've got this cheap hardware that people are holding, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of assets on, it's kind of mind blowing. And I do believe, as I said, like, the idea of transacting in crypto, yes, is it years away from full adoption? Sure. But I think we'll hit a point where businesses, if we get to the point where the rails can allow for a cost savings in terms of the fee structure, and instead of 1.5% to 3.5%, they end up like at 0.5 to 1.5%, all of a sudden businesses are incentivized, and this is a percent may not sound like a lot, but you're running $1 million business, like it adds up, especially when you're running on lean margins. Those percentages often are the difference between profits and not, or growth and not. This could be a real game changer, disrupting the traditional payment systems. Right now, it is, I agree, probably for years, still additive, and it'll be both. But even at both, it's like you see some businesses that will give discounts if you pay in cash. Why? Because they don't have to pay that 3.5% credit card fee. Like, same thing applies here. And so I think if we hit that tipping point where you start popping into restaurants and you see a sign that says pay in crypto, get a free dessert, get a free drink, the adoption is going to skyrocket, Steve.
That's where my head goes as far as like to your point, like they had the thing where they on Bitcoin Pizza Day, there was a pizza truck and they said they only accepted USDC. And there were a couple of people who showed up to the pizza truck who weren't in crypto. I think it was like I think it was I can't remember who it was tweeted about. Actually, I don't want to attribute if I don't know, but it was like someone came up and was like, yeah, someone came into the pizza truck, wanted to pay with a credit card. They said, we don't accept credit cards. We only accept crypto. The person flipped out. But like the pizza truck, like the reports there were like, look, the fact that they don't have to incur the credit card fees on every single piece of pizza they're selling today seems small, but it's almost like the same way that, interest, compounding interest works is that, it was like one slice of pizza. Yeah, it's not so much. It's a little bit of percentage of that, of that fee. But once you start adding that up, if someone sells, 500, 1,000 pieces of pizza over a lunch period of time or whatever that number is, that adds up real quick if you start to do the math on, a percent and a half on a, $3 slice and, may not sound like much, but then it's like you start to add that up and you're like, you're cutting into their margins. And then on a daily basis, over a month, over a year, getting that money back with something like this is a really interesting proposition. So for me, I agree. Like I had this conversation recently where it's like, yeah, like if I were a business, we talked about this offline, actually. I know that we had this on a call where we talked about like, if you're a business and you accept crypto and you can tell someone without paying a credit card, hey, if you pay in crypto, like, yeah, whether it's a free dessert or whether we're going to give you a, X percentage off, it encourages people to pay you in even a stable coin, which is totally cool, to then not incur that same fee because I do use my credit cards everywhere and stack all my points and all that stuff. But, paying in the crypto, I think would be a great thing if I'm getting money off, especially if it exceeds, say, 2%, which is generally the highest rate you get on most cards. Some have like the 1, 2, 3, some have the, 4 up to that. But like for me, I use my Fidelity cashback card for most of my things that I don't use my Delta card for. Because once I get to that sort of platinum status, do I need more miles or do I just want to hold the platinum status and use my cash back? It's 2%. If I can get something that is worth more than 2% of that cash back at a place, I'm going to pay with the crypto. So I think the difference there is really huge. So we will pick another winner as we go. I'm going to crack my Colony box here in about 1 minute to see how I ran on my basketball card in that drop. And I don't know, Cap, any other parting thoughts or two, did you pick a winner yet?
Formed Chaos is our winner, posted up, pinned up above. And so also for anyone that's looking for the site, that is Formed Chaos tagged the X account, and their website is in the X bio.
This warms my heart. Formed Chaos has recently showed up on my timeline more and more. Followed them recently. They've interacted with a lot of my stuff. And I was actually kind of hoping I almost picked, but I'm like, I should let Cap pick a winner. I almost picked Formed Chaos right off the bat. Commented initially, don't have a hardware wallet. So Formed Chaos, I know we followed each other recently. Send me an address to send that to. Just DM me because I have the hardware wallet. So Dort and Formed Chaos. But it actually warms the cockles of my heart to see Formed Chaos being the second winner and you picking it. Because I didn't want to be biased, but I'm like, yeah, seen him on the timeline, interacting, thoughtful. I always tell people are like, oh, like, can I get a follow? Is 8 follow 8 still a thing? Formed Chaos responds with like thoughtful commentary or GMs or other things regularly. It's like, of course I'm going to follow that person back. Like they're bringing value to my life. They're bringing value to my timeline. It's a real person. They're interacting meaningfully. So, I appreciate that. And so I'm glad to see that's a great winner right there. So excited about that. So we got our 2 winners. Appreciate it. Check it out if you haven't checked it out yet, though, because like I said, I really do like the product, not just because we had them on this morning. It wasn't sponsored or anything. It's just we met them at Consensus. They sent us a couple to use. They gave us a couple to give away, and we're stoked to be able to do that for our audience. And for those people listening back in podcast, you'll have to check it out. Sorry, we might have to start saving some back for podcasts and start giving some separate things there. Cause I know I get more and more messages lately that people listen back on podcasts. So might have to do a little bit of that, but look, last thing I'll kind of shamelessly plug. If you scroll one over, I'm doing a space with On-Chain Monkey today. Talking to a couple of great artists, Alexi Andre, Patrick Amanon. I think Alexi, we might even have on our show before that drop comes out that they're doing with OCM. Their Ordinals drop would be a good conversation because Alexi is a brilliant interview. Like really enjoyed talking to him and hearing all about his art and his background. He was an OG before many, many of us in this world. So look, all that said, I'm going to go crack a Colony box. Good conversation this morning. nice Thursday. I almost got the days all blend together, but nice Thursday going into Friday. We'll probably have a typical Friday show. Nice, lazy, easy show. Shenanigans abound. So show up for that. I'm sure we'll go deep on a lot of topics. Maybe Joey Valls will have a D-Gods PFP by then. We shall see. I kid. But look, thanks again to everyone who stopped by this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.
This episode is brought to you by DGen Network, the only community-based Web3 media network, bringing you the very best content in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. Please visit dgen.network and check out our other great shows. That's DGen, DGEN.network.
Welcome to the future.